Yuna pressed her long fingers against the observation window and stared at the distant blue planet. Earth. The humans called it home. She had never been there, never even been close. But she had spent 3 years watching them from this cold research station at the edge of their territory. The Valeth did not understand obsession. They were a logical species, creatures of pure reason who had lived among the stars for over 10,000 years. Yuna's people had conquered death itself, extending their lives to 500 years or more. They had eliminated war, suffering, and waste. They were perfect, and they were so very, very bored. Yuna was only 47 years old, practically a child by Valeth standards. Her skin was pale silver. Her eyes were large and dark, and her body was thin and graceful. She looked fragile, but her bones were stronger than steel. Everything about the Valeth was efficient. They did not need much food. They did not sleep often. They did not feel strong emotions because emotions were inefficient. But Yuna felt something when she watched the humans. She did not have a word for it in her own language. Curiosity was close, but not quite right. Fascination, perhaps. Or maybe it was envy. The humans were strange. They lived only 80 or 90 years if they were lucky. They fought with each other over foolish things. They made terrible decisions based on feelings instead of facts. They were clumsy and awkward compared to the elegant Valeth. By every logical measure, they should have failed as a species. Instead, they thrived. In only 200 years since leaving their planet, humans had established colonies on 17 worlds. They had created art that made even the ancient Krell weep. They had technology that matched species who had been building starships for millennia. They laughed in the face of impossible odds and somehow, impossibly, they won. Yuna's supervisor, Elder Kalis, did not approve of her research. The humans are dangerous, he had told her many times. His voice was always calm and measured, like all Valeth. They do not think. They react. They are driven by primitive emotions that cloud their judgment. It is only a matter of time before they destroy themselves. But 3 years of watching them had taught Yuna something different. The humans did not succeed despite their emotions. They succeeded because of them. She had watched a human mother run into a burning building to save her child. The logic was clear. Both would die. But the mother had survived, and so had the child. Because she had moved faster than thought. Driven by something the Valeth had forgotten existed: love. Yuna turned away from the window and walked back to her station. The observatory was quiet. Only 5 Valeth scientists worked here, monitoring the border between Valeth space and human territory. Their job was to observe and record. Nothing more. The communication panel beeped softly. Yuna's dark eyes scanned the screen. A distress signal. She felt something flutter in her chest, an unusual sensation that Valeth biology textbooks called an adrenaline response. Her people had evolved past such things, mostly, but occasionally the ancient reactions surfaced. The signal was coming from a human ship. The coordinates placed it deep in an asteroid field, about 3 hours away, at maximum shuttle speed. Yuna pulled up the data. The ship was called the Tewa, a small mining vessel with a crew of 12. The automated message was brief and desperate. Critical hull breach. Life support failing. Require immediate assistance. Thank you for watching. Critical hull breach. Critical hull breach. Protocol was clear. She should report this to the nearest human outpost and let them handle the rescue. The Valeth did not interfere in the affairs of other species unless absolutely necessary. It was not logical to risk Valeth resources for humans who had gotten themselves into trouble. Yuna's fingers hovered over the communication controls. She thought about Elder Kalis and his warnings. She thought about protocol and logic and the efficient way to handle this situation. She thought about the reputation she would gain among her people if she ignored the distress call and followed the rules. Then she thought about the 12 humans on that ship. 12 individuals with families waiting for them. 12 people who laughed and cried and loved and hoped, who would be gone in a matter of hours if someone did not help them. Yuna made a decision that no logical Valeth should make. She walked to the shuttle bay. Station AI. Prepare Shuttle 3 for immediate departure, she said. The AI's voice was neutral. Destination? Coordinates from distress signal Alpha 77. That is outside authorized research parameters. Elder Kalis must approve. Override authorization. Code UNA 47 Beta. There was a pause. Override accepted. Shuttle 3 is ready. Estimated travel time: 2 hours and 43 minutes. Una grabbed an emergency kit and headed for the shuttle. Her heart was beating faster than normal. Fear? Excitement? She could not tell. The Valeth had words for these emotions, but they were ancient words, rarely used. As she climbed into the pilot's seat, she caught her reflection in the polished metal panel. She looked the same as always, calm, composed, logical, but inside, something had changed. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the vast darkness of space. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds against the void. Somewhere out there, 12 humans were dying. Una engaged the engines. The shuttle shot forward, leaving the safety of the observatory behind. As the asteroid field grew larger in her view screen, Una realized that she was not following Valeth logic anymore. She was following something else. Something the humans understood far better than her people. Instinct. She did not know it yet, but this decision would change everything. Not just for her, but for every Valeth in the galaxy. The ancient species that had forgotten how to feel was about to be reminded by the youngest, most chaotic race in the universe. All because one curious Valeth scientist decided to answer a distress call she should have ignored. The asteroid field loomed ahead, massive rocks tumbling through space in a deadly dance. Una's instruments showed the Tewa's signal growing stronger. She was close now. Time to see what these remarkable humans were really made of. Time to learn if her curiosity would be rewarded or punished. Time to discover what it meant to be truly alive. The Tewa was dying. Una could see it clearly as her shuttle approached. The mining vessel was small, barely larger than her own craft. And it had been torn apart. A massive hole gaped in the side, exposing twisted metal and shattered equipment to the vacuum of space. The ship tumbled slowly, caught in the gravity of the asteroids around it. She opened a communication channel. "This is Valeth Research Shuttle 3. I am responding to your distress call. Is anyone alive?" Static crackled through the speakers. Then a voice, rough and strained. "This is Donghyun Kim, engineer of the Tewa. I'm the only one left." Una felt something cold settle in her chest. 11 dead. Only one survivor. "I am approaching to dock," she said. "Prepare for extraction." Negative. The human's voice was firm despite his obvious pain. "I need 10 more minutes." Una's logical mind processed this. "Your life support will fail in approximately 6 minutes. You do not have 10 minutes. I need to get to the data core." This made no sense. "The core can be replaced. Your life cannot." A harsh sound came through the speaker. It took Una a moment to recognize it as laughter. Human laughter. Even in the face of death. "You don't understand," Dongyun said. "The core has the last messages. From my crew to their families. Letters. Videos. Final words. I can't let them die twice." Una stared at her instruments. The logical choice was clear. Land, grab the human, leave. The data was just information. It could be recreated. But she remembered what she had learned in 3 years of watching humans. They did not value things the same way Valeth did. "I will help you," she said. She maneuvered her shuttle close to the broken ship and extended the docking tube. The seal was not perfect due to the damage, but it would hold long enough. Una put on her environmental suit and crossed into the Tewa. The interior was a disaster. Emergency lights flickered red, the air was thin and cold. Bodies floated in the corridors, frozen and still. Una had seen death before, but never like this. Never so sudden and violent. She found Dong-Yun in the engineering section, working frantically at a control panel. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and dark hair. Blood stained his face from a cut on his forehead, and his left arm hung at an awkward angle. Broken, she thought. His breathing was labored in the thin atmosphere. "You actually came," he said, not looking up from his work. I said I would. Most people don't keep their word when it's inconvenient. Yuna moved closer. Where is the core? He pointed to a sealed compartment. Behind that panel. But the release mechanism is damaged. I've been trying to bypass it. But... He stopped. Gasping for breath, Yuna examined the panel. It would take too long to bypass, but Valeth were strong, much stronger than they looked. She gripped the panel with both hands and pulled. Metal shrieked. The panel tore free. Dongyun stared at her. Okay. That works too. The data core was small, about the size of a human fist. Yuna grabbed it and handed it to Dongyun. He clutched it against his chest with his good arm. Thank you, he said quietly. We need to leave. Now. They made their way back toward the docking tube. The ship groaned around them. Structural supports failing one by one. Yuna helped Dongyun move faster. Supporting his weight, he was heavier than she expected, but she managed. They were halfway to the shuttle when the asteroid field shifted. Yuna's suit computer flashed a warning. A large asteroid was on a collision course with both ships. Impact in 90 seconds. Go! Dongyun pushed her toward the shuttle. Get out of here. Not without you. No. I'll slow you down. My ribs are broken. I can barely breathe. If we both try to make it, we both die. Yuna calculated the odds. He was right. The logical choice was to save herself. She grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. Then we will both die quickly, instead of you dying slowly. Move. They ran. Dongyun stumbled, crying out in pain, but Yuna kept him upright. Through the docking tube, into the shuttle. She practically threw him into a seat and sealed the airlock. 60 seconds. The docking tube would not detach fast enough. The shuttle would be caught in the collision. Dongyun pulled himself to the co-pilot station, moving on instinct despite his injuries. His hands flew over the controls. What are you doing? Yuna demanded. Trust me. He activated the Tehua's emergency thrusters. They were damaged, barely functional, but they fired. The mining ship lurched sideways, pushing Yuna's shuttle away from the collision path. 40 seconds. The thrusters will not provide enough force, Yuna said. They don't have to. Just enough to change the angle. Donghyun's fingers danced over the controls, adjusting the thrust vectors. Come on, come on. 20 seconds. The shuttle broke free of the docking tube. Yuna engaged full power, shooting away from the Tehua. 10 seconds. They cleared the danger zone. Behind them, the asteroid slammed into the Tehua. The mining ship crumpled like paper, erupting in a brief flash of light before the vacuum swallowed it whole. 11 bodies turned to dust in an instant, but the data core was safe, and so was Dongyun. Yuna sat in the pilot's seat, her hands trembling. The Valeth did not tremble. She stared at her hands as if they belonged to someone else. Dongyun slumped in his seat, breathing hard. That was close. You could have died, Yuna said. You used the thrusters to save me. You could have saved yourself first. He looked at her with dark, tired eyes. You came for me when you didn't have to. That meant something. It was not logical. No, he agreed. It wasn't. But it was right. Yuna did not have a response to that. In all her years of study, in all her understanding of the universe, she had never encountered a concept quite like this. The humans had dozens of words for it. Honor, duty, compassion, loyalty. The Valeth had forgotten them all. I am taking you to my station, she said. You need medical care. Dongyun nodded, then closed his eyes. The data core was still clutched against his chest. As Yuna set course for the observatory, she glanced at the human beside her. He had risked his life for the final words of his dead crew. He had saved her when he could have saved himself. Elder Kalis had said humans were dangerous, unpredictable, driven by emotion instead of reason. He was right, but he had forgotten to mention that sometimes, just sometimes, emotion was stronger than logic, and that made all the difference. Elder Kalis was not pleased. You brought a human here. To our research station. Without authorization, Yuna stood in his office, her posture straight and calm. Inside, she felt something the Valeth rarely experienced. Defiance. He would have died, she said simply. Many beings die every day. We do not rescue them all. Kalis folded his long fingers together. The human has a vessel coming for him in 2 weeks. Until then, he remains in the medical bay. You will not interact with him unnecessarily. Is that understood? Yes, Elder. But Yuna did not follow orders. She visited Donghyun the next day. The medical bay had healed most of his injuries. Valeth technology was far superior to human medicine. His broken ribs were mended. The cuts were gone. He sat on the edge of the medical bed, looking out the viewport at the stars. How do you feel? Yuna asked. He turned, surprised to see her. Like I got hit by an asteroid. But alive, so I'm not complaining. He smiled. I never properly thanked you. You saved my life. You saved mine as well. We are equal. I don't think that's how it works, but okay. He gestured to the chair beside the bed. Want to sit? Or do Valeth not sit? Yuna sat. Do you do anything for fun? The question confused her. Fun? Yeah, you know, enjoyment. Things you do because they make you happy, not because they're useful. He studied her face. You don't have a word for it, do you? We have the word. We simply do not prioritize such activities. Donghyun laughed. It was a warm sound, full of genuine amusement. No wonder you all look so serious. When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to? Yuna considered this. I answered your distress call. Fair point. He leaned back. But before that, she could not think of an answer. Over the next 2 weeks, Donghyun became her teacher in subjects no Valeth had ever studied. He showed her human music, playing songs from his personal device. The first time she heard it, she was confused. Random sounds arranged in patterns, but as she listened more, she began to understand. The music made her feel things. This one is called Moonlight Sonata, Donghyun said, playing a soft, sad piece. It's over 400 years old. A man named Beethoven wrote it. It sounds melancholy, Yuna said. It is. He wrote it when he was going deaf. Imagine being a musician and losing the thing you love most. That is tragic. Yeah. But he made something beautiful from his pain. That's what humans do. We turn suffering into art. Yuna listened to the music and felt a strange sensation in her chest. The Valeth had art too. But it was calculated. Perfect. Optimized for aesthetic appeal. This human music was messy and emotional, and somehow more real than anything her people had created in centuries. Donghyun showed her human poetry, human films, human paintings. He told her stories about Earth, about the oceans and mountains and cities filled with billions of people all living their short, chaotic lives. We only get 80 years if we're lucky, he said. So we try to make them count. We fall in love. We have children. We build things and break things, and fix them again. We're not efficient like you, but we're alive. The Valeth are alive, Yuna protested. Are you? He looked at her seriously. When was the last time you felt your heart race? When did you last laugh until your stomach hurt? When did you cry? When did you feel so happy you thought you'd burst? Yuna had no answer. The Valeth had eliminated such extreme emotions. They were inefficient. They clouded judgment. We solved the big problems, she said quietly. We ended war. We cured disease. We extended our lives. We reached perfection. And then what? Donghyun asked. What did you do after you solved everything? We exist. But you don't live. The words stung because they were true. Yuna thought about her people. They did not create new art anymore. They did not write new philosophy. They simply maintained what they had built and slowly, quietly, faded into irrelevance. My people would say that emotions make you weak, Yuna said. Maybe. But they also make us strong. Donghyun stood and walked to the window. I watched 11 friends die. People I'd worked with for years. Good people. And it hurt. It still hurts. But that pain reminds me that their lives mattered. That they were real. If I didn't feel anything, what would be the point? Yuna joined him at the window. I do not understand how you survive. You feel everything so intensely. Does it not exhaust you? Sometimes. But it's worth it. He smiled at her. You want to know the secret of humanity? We're not here for a long time. So we're here for a good time. Every moment counts. Every person matters. We burn bright and fast because we'd rather have one real day than 1,000 empty ones. Something inside Yuna cracked. She had spent 47 years being perfect and proper and logical. She had followed every rule, met every expectation. She had been exactly what a Valeth should be, and she had never truly lived. Teach me, she said suddenly. Teach you what? How to feel. How to be. Human. Human. Dongyun laughed again, that warm, genuine sound. You can't be human. But you can be yourself. The real you. Not the one your people expect. He pulled up a video on his device. Here, watch this. It was a sunset on Earth. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink and gold. Clouds drifted like silk across the horizon. The ocean reflected the colors, turning the water into liquid fire. It's beautiful, Yuna whispered. Yeah. I've seen 1,000 sunsets. And everyone is different. That's the thing about life. It's always changing. Always new. He paused the video. Your people optimized themselves into stagnation. You became so efficient that you forgot why you're alive in the first place. Yuna watched the frozen sunset. What is the purpose of life? I don't know. I don't think anyone does. But I think it's about connection. About loving people. About making mistakes and learning from them. About creating things that didn't exist before. About feeling the wind on your face and tasting good food and laughing with friends. He looked at her. It's about being imperfect and being okay with that. For the first time in her life, Yuna cried. Tears rolled down her silver cheeks. She did not know why she was crying. Sadness? Joy? Relief? All of it? None of it? Dongyun did not seem alarmed. He simply handed her a cloth and waited. I have wasted so much time, she said through her tears. No, you've been getting ready. Now you know what you were missing. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Yuna wiped her eyes. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking. She felt more alive in this moment than in her entire 47 years. I do not know, she admitted. That's okay. Not knowing is part of being alive too. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant. But inside the medical bay, something warm was growing. A friendship between two beings who should never have met. A connection that would change everything. Yuna looked at Donghyun and smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. Thank you, she said. For what? For showing me what I was missing. 2 weeks passed too quickly. But they were the most important 2 weeks of Yuna's life. The alarm shattered the quiet of the observatory. Yuna ran to the command center where Elder Kalis and the other scientists were gathered around the main display. Red warnings flashed across every screen. What is happening? She demanded. Kalis's face was grim. Krevoth warships. 15 vessels. They will reach us in 4 hours. Yuna felt ice in her veins. The Krevoth were conquerors, a brutal species that took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not use. They had already obliterated 3 Valeth outposts in the past year, killing everyone inside. We must evacuate, said Jinwoo, one of the senior researchers. Kalis shook his head. Evacuation will take 6 hours. We do not have enough time. Then we surrender, suggested Heijin, the communications officer. We offer them the station peacefully. Perhaps they will spare us. They will not, Yuna said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. The Krevoth do not take prisoners. They see mercy as weakness. Then what do you suggest? Kalis asked. Yuna did not have an answer. The Valeth had not fought a war in over 2,000 years. They had forgotten how, but she knew someone who remembered. She found Dong-hyun in the observation deck, staring at the approaching fleet. His human rescue ship had been delayed. He was still here. And now he was trapped with them. "I'm sorry," Yuna said. "You survived your ship only to die here with us." Dong-hyun did not turn around. Maybe not. Tell me about these Krivoth. They are warriors, aggressive, powerful. Their technology is superior to ours in weapons and shields. What about numbers? 15 ships. Each carries approximately 50 soldiers, well-armed and experienced. Dong-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man making a dangerous plan. "What are your defensive capabilities?" he asked. "We have none. This is a research station." "What about the asteroid field? Can you control it?" Yuna frowned. "We have mining charges. For research purposes, but they are not weapons. Everything is a weapon if you use it right." He turned to face her. "I need to talk to your elder." Now, in the command center, Dong-hyun studied the tactical display. The Krevoth fleet was moving in a standard attack formation, confident and unconcerned. Why would they worry? The Valeth never fought back. "You're going to surrender," Dong-hyun said to Kalis. "That is the logical choice. It's also the dead choice. They're going to kill you all. We do not know that with certainty." "I do. I've fought the Krevoth before." Dong-hyun pointed to a scar on his neck. "They gave me this. They're bullies. They respect strength. Show weakness, and you're already dead." Kalis folded his arms. "What do you propose?" "We have no weapons. No soldiers. We are scientists. You have mining charges. You have the asteroid field. You have knowledge of physics and engineering." Dong-hyun's eyes were hard. "And you have me. What are you?" Yuna asked. "Before I was a mining engineer, I was in the human military, tactical operations. I fought in the border wars." He pulled up the star chart. "I can give you a plan. Success probability is maybe 4%, but it's better than 0. The Valeth scientists looked at each other. 4% was terrible odds. "I will help," Yuna said suddenly. "Yuna," Kalis began. "He is right. Surrender equals death. If we have even a small chance to survive, we should take it." Jinwoo stepped forward. "I will help too." Then Heejin. And I. One by one, the scientists volunteered. Even Kalis, though he looked pained doing it. "Okay," Dong-hyun said. "Here's what we're going to do." The plan was insane. It required perfect timing, incredible luck, and a willingness to risk everything. The Valeth would have to rig the mining charges to the asteroids, creating a minefield. They would have to program false sensor signatures to make it look like the station had defensive ships. They would have to lure the Krevoth into a specific attack pattern, and they would have to do it all in less than 4 hours. They worked frantically. Yuna had never seen her people move so fast. The Valeth were efficient. But this was different. This was desperation. This was survival. Dong-hyun was everywhere, coordinating, adjusting, helping. His human energy infected them all. He did not have superior strength or technology, but he had something more valuable. He had done this before. He knew how to fight when victory seemed impossible. "The charges are in place," Jinwoo reported. 47 asteroids armed. "Good. Activate the false signatures," Dong-hyun ordered. Heijin worked her console. On the display, phantom ships appeared around the station. They would not hold up to close inspection, but from a distance, they looked real enough. 3 hours, Kalis announced. Dong-hyun reviewed the plan one more time. "Remember, we let them commit to the attack. Once they're in the field, we trigger the charges. The explosions will create debris clouds. That's when we hit them with everything we have." "We don't have anything," Yuna pointed out. "We have surprise. We have home field advantage. And we have the one thing the Krevoth don't expect. We're going to fight back." The Krevoth fleet arrived exactly on schedule. Their ships were massive and dark, covered in weapons. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met real resistance. The lead ship broadcast a message. Valeth Station. You will surrender immediately. Resistance is futile. Kalis looked at Dongyun, who nodded. This is Elder Kalis of Research Station 7. We refuse. There was shocked silence from the Krevoth. Then laughter. You refuse? You have no weapons. You have no chance. We will destroy you. Then come and try. The Krevoth fleet charged forward, right into the asteroid field. They were too confident. Too sure of their victory. Exactly as Donghyun had predicted. Now! He shouted. Yuna triggered the mining charges. 47 asteroids exploded simultaneously, sending millions of rock fragments in every direction. The Krevoth ships scattered, trying to avoid the debris. Their perfect formation broke apart. Hit the flagship, Dongyun ordered. More charges detonated, targeting the largest Krevoth vessel. Rocks slammed into its shields. The shields held, but they were weakening. They're adapting, Heejin warned. Changing course. Then we adapt faster. Yuna, pattern gamma. Yuna's fingers flew across the controls. More explosions. More chaos. The Krevoth were confused, disoriented. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they were fighting for their lives in a minefield. One Krevoth ship took too much damage. Its shields failed. An asteroid punched through the hull, and the ship went dark. The others retreated, regrouping. But Donghyun was not done. Send them this message. The Valeth are not your victims. Leave now, or die. Kalis hesitated, then sent it. The Krevoth commander responded with fury. You dare threaten us? We will. Another explosion cut off the transmission. The flagship's shields flickered and failed. The Krevoth commander realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had underestimated the Valeth. The fleet retreated, jumping to faster than light speed in a chaotic scramble. Silence filled the command center. They had won. Impossible, Kalis whispered. We won. Yuna looked at Dongyun, who was leaning against a console, exhausted and pale. Blood seeped from his reopened injuries. You're hurt, she said. I'll live. We all will. He smiled weakly. 4% chance. Not bad odds after all, but the victory came with a cost. Dongyun collapsed, his injuries too severe. The battle had pushed his still-healing body beyond its limits, and Yuna realized she would do anything to save him. Even if it meant breaking the most sacred Valeth law, Dongyun was dying again. Yuna watched the medical monitors flash red warnings. His body had been pushed too far. The battle had reopened his injuries, and human healing was too slow. He needed advanced treatment. He needed Valeth technology. But there was a problem. Absolutely not, Elder Kalis said firmly. The regeneration chamber is forbidden for non-Valeth. It is our most sacred technology. He will die without it, Yuna argued. Then he dies. That is the natural way. We do not interfere. Yuna felt something burn inside her chest. Anger. The Valeth rarely felt anger, but she felt it now, hot and fierce. He saved us all. He gave us a plan when we had none. He taught us to fight. And you would let him die because of a rule? It is not just a rule. It is our law, our way. Kalis's voice softened slightly. I understand your feelings, Yuna, but we cannot break thousands of years of tradition for one human. Why not? What is tradition worth if it makes us cruel? The question hung in the air. Kalis had no answer. Yuna made her choice. That night, when the other scientists were resting, she carried Dongyun to the regeneration chamber. The forbidden room was deep in the station, protected by security codes. But Yuna knew them all. She had watched Kalis enter them hundreds of times. The chamber was beautiful. A crystalline pod filled with silver liquid, the product of 10,000 years of Valeth science. It could heal anything. Regrow limbs, repair organs, reverse aging itself, and it was forbidden to outsiders. Yuna placed Dongyun inside. The liquid surrounded him, glowing softly. His body relaxed as the healing began. The monitors showed his condition stabilizing, improving. She sat beside the chamber and waited. Kalis found her 3 hours later. "What have you done?" His voice was quiet, but Yuna heard the disappointment in it. "What you should have done. I saved a life. You broke our most sacred law. Then punish me, exile me, I do not care." Yuna looked at Dong-yun through the crystal. "He taught me that some things matter more than rules. Connection matters. Compassion matters. Love matters." "Love?" Kalis looked startled. "You love this human?" Yuna considered the question. Did she love Dong-hyun? The Valeth did not love. They did not bond that way. But she cared for him. She wanted him to be happy. She would sacrifice for him. Maybe that was love. "I do not know what I feel," she admitted. "But I know I could not let him die. Not when I had the power to save him." Kalis was silent for a long time. Then he sat down beside her. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have been wrong about many things." "What do you mean?" "We eliminated emotion because it was inefficient. We stopped creating because we had perfected everything. We stopped fighting because we solved all conflicts." He looked tired, ancient. "But in doing so, we stopped living. We became empty. Yes, this human showed us something we had forgotten. Passion, purpose, the will to fight for what matters." Kalis shook his head. "We have existed for thousands of years, but we have not truly lived in so very long." "What will you do?" Yuna asked. "I will not punish you. What you did was against our law, but it was not wrong." He stood. "When the human wakes, he may stay as long as he wishes, and when he leaves..." He paused. "If you wish to go with him, I will not stop you." Yuna felt tears on her face again. She was crying more now than in her entire life before. "Thank you, Elder." Dong-hyun woke 2 days later, fully healed. He looked at Yuna with confusion and wonder. "What happened?" "I broke the rules," she said simply. He laughed. "Good. Rules are meant to be broken sometimes." The human rescue ship arrived a week later. Dong-hyun stood in the shuttle bay, his belongings packed. The data core from the Taewa was carefully stored. He would deliver those final messages to the families who waited. "Come with me," he said to Yuna. "To human space?" "Yeah. See Earth. Meet people. Learn what it's like to really live." He held out his hand. "I promise it's chaotic and messy, and nothing like the perfection you're used to, but it's real." Yuna looked at his hand. Everything logical told her to stay. The Valeth were her people. The observatory was her home. Safety was here, but safety was not the same as living. She took his hand. "I will come." Elder Kalis and the other scientists gathered to see them off. There were no long speeches. The Valeth did not do emotional goodbyes. But Kalis placed a hand on Yuna's shoulder. "Find what you are looking for," he said. "And if you find it, come back and teach us." The shuttle departed, carrying Yuna toward a future she could not predict or control. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. 10 years passed. Yuna stood in front of the Galactic Council, presenting her research. Around her sat representatives from hundreds of species, including 47 Valeth scientists who had followed her path. "We call it the Dong-yun Protocol," she explained. "A method of integrating emotional intelligence with logical analysis. Our research shows that species who embrace both think more creatively, solve problems faster, and live more fulfilling lives." The council listened with interest. Yuna had spent 10 years proving what Dong-yun had shown her in 2 weeks. That emotion and logic were not enemies. They were partners. After the presentation, she found Dong-yun waiting outside the chamber. "How'd it go?" he asked. 40 more Valeth have requested to join the program. And the Krell want to establish an exchange program with humans." "The Krell? Really? Those guys never change their minds about anything. You would be surprised what changes people can make when they are willing to try." They walked through the station together, passing aliens of every type. Yuna had changed in 10 years. She laughed often now. She created art. She had friends from a dozen species. She argued and debated, and sometimes got angry. She was alive. Do you ever regret it? Dongyun asked. Leaving your people? No. I found my people. They are everywhere. Human, Valeth, Krell, whoever is willing to truly live. They reached the observation deck where they had first watched the Krevoth approach. Now, it showed a peaceful view of stars and planets, and ships moving in harmony. I never thanked you properly, Yuna said. For what? For answering my curiosity about humans. For teaching me to feel. For showing me what I was missing. Donghyun smiled. I think you taught me too. I was just surviving before I met you. Going through the motions. You reminded me why life matters. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts. They stood together, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valeth were changing. Elder Kalis had started a philosophical movement, asking the questions that had not been asked in centuries. What is the purpose of existence? What makes life worth living? How do we balance logic and emotion? The answers were still being discovered. But the questions alone had awakened something in the Valeth that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Curiosity. Yuna thought about the scared, confused scientist she had been, following rules and never questioning anything. That person felt like a stranger now. Do you think other species can change too? She asked. I think anyone can change if they want to. The hard part is wanting to. What changed you? Donghyun was quiet for a moment. Meeting someone who cared enough to save me when she didn't have to. Someone who showed me that connection is stronger than survival. Someone who proved that the bravest thing you can do is feel everything, even when it hurts. Yuna felt her heart beating steady and strong. The Valeth had called emotions inefficient. They had been wrong. Emotions were what made life meaningful. The humans didn't teach us to be irrational, she said softly. They taught us that the heart and mind were never meant to be separate, and in learning to feel again, we finally understood what we'd been missing all along. What's that? The courage to be imperfect. And the wisdom to embrace it. Donghyun took her hand, and she did not pull away. Outside the window, a human ship passed by, its hull painted with the words, "Never stop exploring." Yuna smiled. Her curiosity about humans had led to an encounter that changed everything. It changed her. It changed her people. It changed the galaxy. And it all started with one simple choice. To answer a distress call. When logic said to ignore it, sometimes the most important decisions were not the logical ones. Sometimes they were the human ones, and that made all the difference.